between the realm of the dead and the journeys of the living. Join Josh, Jamie, and Elisa as they delve into the vast world of the paranormal and breathe life back into the history of the departed.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jamie.
And I'm Elisa.
And we have another exciting and interesting episode for you guys. But what are we going to be talking about, Elisa? Because
we have no idea.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Yeah, and he thinks it's exciting. Little does he know that it...
Right. To be determined.
Yeah. No, this is the LaLaurie Mansion. So it's in New Orleans.
Ooh.
Haunted New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. One of the many haunted places in New Orleans.
Oh, I believe it.
We should actually do a segment. Just New Orleans.
Why not?
Can we do it from the French Quarter, though?
Oh,
like, if we're going to do it, we
so
should be
cool.
in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
I mean, we can add it to the list, but I mean, and see how far we get.
Christmas in New Orleans.
Interesting idea.
I wouldn't be complaining.
Kids might, but whatever.
We'll be happy. We're good.
So this episode is based on a female who is very controlling. Very, very controlling. Her name is Madame Delphine LaLaurie. So she was very proper, right? But she was born in New Orleans on March 19th, 1787. She was a high society Creole socialite known for her beauty and lavish parties. She first got married to Don, a high-ranking Spanish officer, in 1800 at the age of 13.
Sick. No. Like sick bad.
But
Not
legit.
sick
Like
good.
that's
But
too young.
that was such the common practice back then, though.
You know, it really was.
Oh, but she was like, I don't want to know, or I don't know if I want to say she was mature for her age. I'm sure she was, but she already knew what she wanted from a very young age. And it literally plays out that you'll see through her life. So while she was pregnant, he was appointed to a prestigious position in Madrid. And during that journey, Don Raymond fell suddenly and violently ill. I've been doing a lot of your guys' names lately, I've noticed.
That's his dad's name, Don Raymond.
Is it really?
Yes.
What are the odds?
That's why I smiled.
He's been reincarnated.
There you go.
So he got violently ill and he died in Havana, Cuba, before they even reached Spain. It was recorded as a sudden illness and possibly yellow fever, which also was rampant in the Caribbean, because Delphine, well, okay, so sometimes we'll call her Delphine, sometimes we'll call her Marie.
Okay.
Depending on, I think, the stage of her life that she was in. Delphine was known for her temper even then. So she's 13, 14, 15.
So at a young age.
She's young. And she was spicy.
She was spicy, yeah.
Yeah.
Cajun spicy.
I guess.
So whispers began that he hadn't died of a disease, but that she had poisoned him during the voyage to avoid leaving New Orleans or to seize his estate. So she already knew what she wanted, this girl.
Dang.
So after returning to New Orleans as a wealthy widow, Delphine married Jean Blanc. We'll call her Blanc. That sounds way better. In 1808, at around 21 years old. He was a prominent lawyer, banker, and politician. And in 1868, Blanc died a quiet, sudden death at the age of 48. Historical records are vague, usually citing illness. His death left Delphine with a massive fortune and several children, the speed of his passing occurring just as he was becoming more eccentric and controlling, led many of the French Quarter to believe that she had expedited his death to gain full control of his wealth and business interests. Does that sound familiar?
A little bit.
But by the time she married Dr. Leonard Louis Nicholas LaLaurie, husband number 3, in 1825, she was 38 years old, and her husband was 15 years younger. He was 23.
So now she's a cougar?
100%.
Dang, girl.
That's kind of unusual for that time of...
Yeah.
Yeah, she was one of the wealthiest women in the city. And she had 6 kids
Dang.
by that time. So Louis was a French physician, and their marriage was reportedly pretty volatile. But when it came to their attic, they were on a united front. We'll just say that.
You said their attic.
Their attic. We will delve into that. So now we're calling her Marie. So what I kind of wonder is if throughout these stages of her life, she kind of changes her identity a little bit. I mean, when you have like 500 names, I mean, you have tons to pick from. But I wonder if that's how it was for her.
Wonder if she gets up, who will I be today?
Yeah.
Or maybe she has multi-personality disorder, and those are actually all of the names of her different personalities.
Very well could
You know
be.
what? That fits.
Yeah. So Marie bought the home with her own money and in her own name. But this home wasn't finished. She added on to it and finished it the way that she wanted. And like most rich socialites back then, they owned slaves, right? So she became very controlling over slaves. And one night, a 12-year-old girl named Leah, that was one of her slaves, was brushing Marie's hair. And she caught a snarl, which got caught in Marie's hair, and then she got really angry. Like, really angry. So Marie grabbed her whip and started chasing Leah through the house. And frightened, Leah ran to the roof's edge, and she turned around and saw that Marie was coming at her with the whip. And so she had nowhere else to go, so she literally jumped off the house.
She'd rather jump.
She'd rather jump
face her.
than face her, yes.
My guess is that that's not the first run-in she's had with her then in that avenue.
Well, right. There's got to be a reason she's so frightened of
Well,
her.
the fact
Right.
that she had her whip right there,
tells you enough.
I mean, that tells me enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She probably had a belt made just for her whip. She could keep it in.
Right?
But she died on impact. But little did Marie know that the neighbor was watching from the window.
Oh, dang.
So authorities came and they investigated the Leah incident. And they found Marie guilty, and she was forced to pay a fine and sell all of her slaves back. So what she did is she secretly told her relatives which ones her slaves were, and they bought them all back and gave them to her.
Oh, so she's really underhanded and conniving, too.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
What a nice lady.
Can you imagine those slaves when they were like, oh, we're finally free, and then realize that they're coming back?
Yeah. Devastating.
Oh, and just wait till you find out what she does to them. So she would throw these big, lavish parties, and guests started noticing that the slaves were coming in, but they were never leaving. They were never coming out of the house, like going to the market and buying things or anything like that. They never left the house. And neighbors also noted that Louis often seemed indifferent to what was happening in his own home. So people started to complain because they were hearing screams, and he would brush them off with cold professional arrogance, telling them to mind their own business.
Oh, yeah. He knows.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is going to be Sweeney Todd.
You have to wait and see.
I guess we'll have to wait and see, but...
Dun, dun, dun. So the slaves in her home would get punished to a harsh degree. She would keep them on starvation rations as a form of control. So even the cook, she was a 70-year-old woman. You know how like cooks will taste the food?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not allowed. If she tried to do any of that, she would also be starved. The cook witnessed Marie beating her own daughters when they were caught trying to sneak food to the starving enslaved people. And Marie was unsatisfied with the meal that she had prepared, so she chained her by the ankle to the stove and told her that she was going to go to the 3rd floor attic next. No one knew what was happening in that attic room. Just when people went in, they never came back out. So the cook decided that that was just too much. She couldn't handle it anymore. So on April 10th, 1834, she put her life back into her own hands and started a fire. Neighbors and firemen broke into the home, and Marie acted like a victim of the house fire. She acted like, or she didn't act like a victim. She acted like a general defending their fortress. She had weird behavior that morning, and it's often cited by historians as like the smoking gun that proved that she wasn't just being neglectful, that she was malicious. So when the first neighbors arrived at the door offering to help save her furniture and her valuables, because she was so rich, so she had like really, really expensive things in the house.
Right.
Marie was reportedly calm and dismissive, acting like it was no big deal, and told the rescuers that the fire was under control and that their help wasn't needed. Like, who would honestly do that?
No,
Especially
why would you
back
turn
then.
away? Yeah, why would you turn away help?
No.
My house is fine.
There's a fire blazing in the house. It's
But
fine.
it's okay. I don't need your help.
It reminds me of those memes where they got the little dog sitting on a chair in the middle of a fire, and he says, "It's fine."
Everything's fine.
Yeah, that's exactly how this was. She attempted to bar the door and stay in the foyer, trying to protect the image of a composed lady who simply had a kitchen mishap. As the smoke grew thicker, the crowd became more insistent, and people began rushing in to save her expensive belongings. Marie and her husband, Dr. Louis LaLaurie, became verbally aggressive when rescuers moved toward the service wing in the back of the house where the enslaved people were kept. She and Louis practically tried to block the way. When a bystander asked for the keys to the slave quarters so that they could evacuate them from the smoke, Dr. LaLaurie reportedly sneered. This is like one of his famous quotes, I guess. There are those who would do better to stay at home than to come and meddle with the laws of others and seeking to dictate them.
Oh, boy.
Like, what a jerk.
Yeah,
you know?
There's some arrogance in that one.
Like, they're trying to help him, but they're trying to hide,
Exactly.
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
when people are trying to hide something, they get defensive.
Oh, of
Oh,
course.
yeah.
So even as the smoke reached the upper floors, Marie refused to hand over the keys to the attic rooms. She stood her ground, insisting that the property inside was her business alone. It was only when the 70-year-old cook, chained to the stove, screamed out that there were people in the attic who were being left to burn that the crowd turned into a rescue party. The group of men, including the town judge and a bunch of other really prominent men, eventually ignored her protests entirely. They took crowbars and axes to the barred doors of the attic, and Marie watched with cold, icy fury as her secrets were literally pried open. The rescuers began to scream at the horror of what they found in the attic. As soon as Marie heard them, she knew the game was over. Her and her husband Louis retreated to the back room, and the crowd was building outside, completely crowding the streets. She ordered her carriage to pull into the courtyard. She and her driver and her husband and a couple of her daughters go out on high speed out of her home, scattering the crowd and headed toward the bayou of St. John. The neighbors and firemen found 7 enslaved people in various states of horrific neglect and torture. 7 slaves, more or less horribly mutilated, were seen suspended by the neck, with their limbs apparently stretched and torn from one extremity to another. They had been confined by her for several months and had been merely kept in existence to prolong their suffering. A woman had a large hole in her head, and her body was covered with wounds filled with maggots. Like, she's alive,
Gross.
and she has
Ugh.
maggots all over her,
Oh, that
and a
poor
big
woman.
hole in her head,
That is absolutely terrible.
indicating that they had been left to rot while still alive for weeks or months. Most of the 7 survivors were wearing spiked iron collars that prevented them from even resting their heads against the wall or lying down comfortably. When they would eventually fall asleep from the exhaustion, their necks or shoulders would be impaled.
Oh,
So if you can
jeez.
imagine an iron ring around your neck with tons of spikes going toward, like, in all different directions on your neck and your shoulders and collarbones, anywhere around there, and you move your head at all. I mean, like, you know when you're so exhausted and your head starts to bob?
Oh, yeah.
Well, every time their head would bob, they'd get stabbed.
Jeez, that's sick.
Yeah. Several people were found chained to the walls or floor in unnatural positions. One man was chained so that he could only stand on his tiptoes. While Marie was the one reportedly wielding the whip, Louis is suspected of the more clinical horrors. Rescuers noted that some of the mutilations were done with surgical precision. This fueled the legend that Louis was using the enslaved people as live subjects for experimental surgeries. It is notoriously difficult to keep a body alive while it's being starved and mutilated. The fact that 7 victims were still breathing when found suggests that someone with medical training was monitoring them just enough to prevent them from dying too soon.
Yeah, it's cold and calculated.
Yeah. The crowd outside heard what they were hiding and became very angry, and they turned into a mob and destroyed the inside of the home. They literally barged in and destroyed everything. They actually found bodies buried in the floorboards and the body of Leah in the yard.
Oh, jeez.
The LaLauries never were caught.
Are you kidding?
Never. They escaped to Paris and lived the rest of their lives out there. Can you imagine?
Of course, they're not going to be extradited, so...
No.
And they're wealthy and rich.
Mm-hmm.
So they can get away with whatever they want.
Makes you wonder if she went over there to Paris and started doing that stuff again.
Oh, I know. So after the Civil War, the building was used as a public school for girls and later a music conservatory. Students frequently reported being scratched or pushed by an invisible force. The most common report of all was a tall, elegant woman who would appear and then vanish, leaving the girls with physical marks. One student claimed she felt 2 cold hands press into her back, but when she turned and looked back, no one was there. One teacher reported in her diary that a student collapsed in tears because she felt cold fingers wrap around her throat during a music lesson. The girl had faint red marks on her neck that faded within the hour. During its time as a conservatory, teachers reported seeing the same woman, matching Marie's description, standing on the balconies or in the hallways, only to disappear when approached. In 1890s, the house was turned into apartments, and the main floor, it was a furniture store. Rooms that were locked and emptied would be found with beds perfectly indented as if someone or something had been lying there. An Italian tenant was found murdered in his room. His belongings were scattered and ransacked, but notably, nothing was stolen. Before his death, he had told his friends and neighbors that a demon was stalking him and that he couldn't escape the feeling of being watched. He claimed the entity would not rest until he was dead. The police was never able to find a human suspect, and the case went cold. The owner of the furniture store reported a recurring and expensive problem that defied logic explanation. He would close the shop at night with his inventory, expensive sofas, chairs, and fabrics in pristine condition. But in the morning, he would find the furniture covered in a dark, smelling stain. Upon closer inspection, the stains appeared to be blood, feces, or urine. However, there were no signs of a break-in, no animal found in the shop, and no leaks in the ceilings. Locals believed that the spectral residue of the victims in the attic was literally leaking down through the floors, manifesting on the items below. The owner eventually actually went out of business because he couldn't keep any furniture in stock.
Oh, that's terrible.
Isn't that gross?
That's really
That
gross.
is really gross.
For a brief period in the early 1900s, the first floor was also a pub or a bar, which the owner, leaning into the rumors, actually named it the Haunted Saloon. Patrons frequently reported seeing a male apparition who would walk toward them with his mouth wide open. Witnesses claims that when the ghost opened his mouth to scream, it was missing its tongue, leaving only a black nub at the back of its throat.
Jeez.
But, that wasn't unheard of for slaves.
No.
Right.
No, that practice was unfortunately common.
Especially for the LaLauries, I'm sure, because they don't want anybody to tell.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't talk, you don't got a tongue, so...
Yeah. So housekeepers have reported a sudden overwhelming smell of burnt, rotten meat that fills the kitchen or the third floor for several minutes before vanishing. The most heartbreaking activity is centered around the courtyard and the balconies. Tourists on night walks have frequently called the police to report a child sitting on the edge of the roof, legs dangling. This is often followed by a blood-curdling shriek that sounds like it's coming from a young girl. Several accounts claim the screams end abrupt with a thud. Then nothing is ever found on the pavement. Neighbors also frequently report hearing a running child on the upper balcony, followed by the sound of a woman screaming, "Get in here!"
Wow.
Jeez.
During a 2019 renovation, workers reported finding 3 long scratches on their arms or backs after working in the attic, often accompanied by the smell of something sulfuric or rotting, which we have smelt
Yes, we
Oh, yeah.
have.
that before. And it's
Such a
never
weird
anything good.
No, it's
No.
such a weird smell, especially when you're in a place that doesn't have a running toilet or a sewer line and
Or
you smell
anything
it.
and you smell it.
Yeah.
Yep. They found human bone fragments fused into the brickwork and floorboards, suggesting that the cleaning of the house after the 1834 mob was never truly finished. Witnesses hear the crack of a whip, the frantic neighing of horses, and heavy iron gates swinging open. But when they look, the gates are closed and the streets are empty. Visitors describe a sudden crushing pressure on their chests as they approach the third floor area. It's often accompanied by a static feeling in the air as if there's a thunderstorm that's about to break. Former residents of the apartment, back when it was subdivided and they had the furniture store on the bottom, they report hearing a dragging sound. It sounds like something heavy and metallic being pulled across the floorboards directly above their heads, followed by like a rhythmic metallic clink sound of a chain hitting the floor.
Wow.
Jeez.
Eek. I can imagine that, though. I can imagine that being a repetitive thing that they would hear. During the 1990s and early 2000s, a specific shadow entity became a frequent topic of conversation during those who worked in the building. Unlike a misty ghost, this one was described as a solid shadow. It is a dark, tall figure that doesn't have a face, just a silhouette that is blacker than the darkness around it. It is most often seen in the peripheral vision of people walking down the long hallways, and when they turn to look at it, the shadow folds into the wall or disappears into the floor. Some believe this is the spirit of Dr. Louis LaLaurie, continuing his silent, cold observations. Like, we've had where we have been in the dark and seen something darker than dark.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen it in a prison when we went to one of the prisons that completely, totally run down. And it feels pitch black, but then you see something darker than that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
really hard to
it's
explain.
Kind of trippy.
It really is.
Because you think, oh, pitch black, but then you think of something even darker. Like, it's hard to imagine if you've never experienced it,
Yeah, and you wonder how that's even possible,
Yep.
but it is.
but it is.
Yeah. Because usually you think, well, I need a light source for a shadow, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you don't have a light source and there's still a shadow.
Yeah, something that's just darker than
Yeah.
dark.
And it adds a big creep factor when
Sure
you see
does.
something like that.
Especially when it moves, like, especially when you're looking straight at it and you see it move and dart into a room.
Mm-hmm. In 2007, Nicolas Cage actually purchased the mansion for roughly $3.4 million. But shortly after buying the mansion, he went bankrupt and lost the home 2 years later. I think he only stayed in the house one night, but he threw a bunch of parties over there.
Are we talking about the actor Nicolas Cage?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, dang.
Yep. So now it's privately owned and no one is allowed inside. But the LaLaurie mansion has had a reject reflex. It was a school and the students were attacked. It was a furniture store. The stock was ruined. It was a bar, and the patrons were terrified. It was owned by a movie star. He went bankrupt. So now that someone just owns it as a home and it's a private residence, I'm assuming they live in there, but nobody's allowed inside.
Gotta wonder what's going on in there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, the possibilities.
But dang, those LaLauries, they were mean. I would not want to be one of their slaves, that's for sure.
No. So I watched a documentary. Well, it's not a documentary. It was, I don't know how true it was, about a woman who, and I can't remember if it was about her or not, but I watched this thing where pretty much the same stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of rumors that go around that say that there was somebody that had a hole in their head with a stick inside.
What?
So that they could scramble up the brain.
Oh, geez.
And then they said that there were people that were in cages that they would break
their bones, and then they would heal unnaturally.
and then they'd re-break
then
them.
Yes, it's exactly what I did watch.
Yeah, those are the myths or legends that come with the home.
Yep.
And some people do believe them.
Yeah, so there is a thing on
there is
it.
a thing on that, yes. But doing my research, there was no facts for those things.
Right.
The facts were, because they were in the newspapers. So the facts were that there were 7 people in the attic. They were all alive, all malnourished, and tortured, hung up. They all had the things around their necks, things like that. I'm sure with him being a doctor that he probably did do surgical things on them.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I would be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah. Well, because that was what, 1800s, right?
17. Well, yeah, 1800s, because she was born in 1700s.
Yeah, so, I mean, there was a practice back then where surgeons would go and, go to graveyards and get corpses and do things with corpses to experiment. I mean, really, it's what we do today, too. We just have cadaver labs, and it's much more regulated.
People donate their bodies versus...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. Right. But, yeah, they... So I wouldn't be surprised if he did do that, because he's like, well, I'm going to learn more about the human body, so let me flay you open and figure out what's inside you.
Yeah. And I imagine that's probably where the screams came from.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, that's worse than Sweeney Todd.
Well, and if you think about it, the woman had, and I'm sure a lot of them probably had this with the cuts and the maggots inside of them.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so terrible.
Imagine the energy that house holds.
It has got to have some real strong, dark energy in it.
Well, and they added another level to the home.
Oh, really?
So before, when she bought it, it wasn't finished. And I don't know how much it wasn't finished. I don't know if she had to continue building or if it was just like, oh, I need to finish the inside. But she made it a 2-story. And then when the mob came and destroyed the house, the walls were still up, but they just destroyed everything on the inside. My assumption is that they did that so something like this couldn't happen again.
Right.
Yeah.
And granted, there was a fire, but it seems like it got put out pretty quick, because if it was in the kitchen with the 70-year-old woman that's stuck there, she didn't die.
Right.
And what they ended up doing is they took all the people that were there, all the slaves, and they put them in the city building.
Oh, okay.
So that everybody could come see them. They were like something cool to watch.
It's like a freak show.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like.
Oh, that's
They
that is-
literally put them out for everyone to come and see them.
So
that's terrible.
not only were, I mean, I get the nature of things as being as enslaved at that time, but they were enslaved and tortured and humiliated and barely let to live.
And then put on
Mhm.
display.
And then your reward for being saved is to like, hey, look at this person who had a spike shoved in their face.
Yeah.
For our people to
Look at this lady.
enjoy.
She's got all these maggots all over her. She's got a big
That's-
old hole in her head, and she's got all these maggots crawling all over her. Let's
That's
look at her.
terrible. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine.
These people were barely alive.
It almost would have been more humane just to kill him. I hate to say it in the sense, right? But like, if
I'm sure that's what they would have wanted.
I
Yeah.
can't imagine. Like, people have gone through minor traumatic events. Well, minor compared to this, right?
Right.
And they can't sleep and they can't even function. But to be tortured for years.
Well, and I'm sure there was a lot of psychological torture too.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Oh.
sure it wasn't just physical.
Well, yeah. I mean, imagine the fact that you've got spikes on your neck and in your head.
You have to constantly
And-
think about, well, if I do this or I do that, or
Oh, yeah.
when I get so tired that I can no longer stay awake and I keel over, I'm going to impale myself on these spikes.
Well, and then always being afraid
Mhm.
that if you did something wrong and you were one of her slaves, that you were going to go into the attic
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you don't know what happens in there. You just know that nobody comes back out.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
frightening.
Like-
They
Well-
mess with you.
I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, they would have had to have slept. They would have had to have been allowed to sleep at some point in time, because
Yes, you would not survive.
you will die in a very short period of time if you don't sleep.
But it's like, do I sleep with spikes in my neck? Yes, because that's the only way you're going to sleep.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that I wonder if they did remove the collars every once in a while type of deal, where it's like,
Well, yeah,
okay, I'm going to let you sleep. Here's your
just enough to keep
here's
you
your
alive.
3 hours of sleep in 72, so you don't die, and then I'm going to put this collar back on you so we can play more games.
Yep.
Start over again.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
there's got to be.
But it was said that like they tried their own lobotomies. There was a person who I think he did do a lobotomy on because he literally had no sense of self, no awareness. I was just blank. So that
Oh,
tells me
geez.
lobotomy.
Yeah.
Or like major mental issues.
How many type 3s do you think are running around in that building?
Well, if the house was never cleansed or anything like that, then I would say that place was probably covered.
Yeah. Just because their activity was a drawing them in. So there'd be multiple
Oh, yeah.
just hanging out with that alone.
Acts like a beacon.
Yeah.
Well, and for a really long time, this house went from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And I bet I didn't even uncover all of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, and the fact that the teachers were writing about it in their journals,
Yeah.
Yeah.
of the things that were happening to these girls. Like,
Well, and I have no doubt that she's there. That she's playing along too.
oh, for sure.
She's evil.
Yeah.
Part of
She's
me-
she's just as sadistic as a 3. I mean, she'd be more than happy to do those things.
Oh, for sure.
Which, I mean, for the current homeowner, I really hope that they took care of that business.
I honestly, I bet they did, because the fact that nobody's allowed in, it's kept in his name, and it's been a private residence for long enough that he would have been spooked out by now if it was still around.
Is it Zach? It's Zach, right?
It is not.
Good old Baggins.
I'm guaranteed if it was his, he'd let everybody in.
Oh, he would. It'd become the next museum.
Mm-hmm. So this house is actually on a corner, on a busy corner. And so people, because they're not allowed in anymore, they'll walk by and they'll feel just the heaviness when they walk by.
Oh, geez.
Well, even if there aren't spirits there in per se, I mean, still the energy of what's happened will still.
Oh yeah, there's
It's still
got to
gonna
be so
resonate.
much
Yeah.
residual, so much residual energy
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if the person that does own that place doesn't have anything happen. I honestly would be shocked.
I would be surprised for sure.
Definitely. Guess we're going to make a trip. Maybe we can go there and then knock on his door and say, "Hey, can we come in? I got cookies. I've got Old Dutch pickle chips."
But not everybody understands
Yeah, it's true.
how
But-
good those are. So,
But if you know, you know.
right. That's true.
They're freaking delicious.
Well, everybody, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And have you ever been to this mansion? Maybe not in it, but have you seen it? Have you experienced some of the energy that's on the street? Let us know. And as always, stay ghosty, my peeps.
Your mama's so fat. It's a floater. Okay.
We have that on there.
Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot_paranormal_research.